Okay, so today's call is on the crisis mentality. It's basically a state of being that happens when we maybe experience a traumatic event or we have a shock after maybe a accident or incident or bad situation. We somehow react to it in a sudden way, right? And this emotion can basically accumulate in us. And with time, even if we forget about that, it will still create a crisis, basically state of being and even mentality. So we will be feeling stressed, we will be feeling overwhelmed, maybe losing hope. So there's so many things that might emerge out of a crisis mindset or living in crisis. Okay, so what is the fundamental basis of crisis and how we should deal with it? So when something happens, let's say if a child had a tantrum in amid of the crisis, there's nothing that we can do actually to it. If we try to stop it, it might make it worse, right? So this explains to us that to deal with a specific situation, we have to look outside. So when the tantrum happens, it's not like we can do something in that tantrum or when the seizure happened, for example, when a specific crisis happened. The best thing that we can do is just being calm and be aware of ourselves, of the child, and letting it go away. But the work will be outside the seizure, outside the tantrum, outside the crisis. Um, Now, what is the main crisis that happened? I would say there are several things that happened from the moment that you received the diagnosis. Um, Moving on from maybe social judgments, from social situations, tantrums, all these things were a set of accumulating crises, right? And it led us, or it leads us to a place where we're trying to do everything that we can to fix it, to work with it, right? Whether it's with medication or special therapy, ABA, anything to just fix that, right? And this is basically when we are trying to push any button, right, to fix that or solve it, right? Um, this crisis state is not going to be helpful because we're basically being stressed, we're overwhelmed. Also, we are somehow creating an energy that on by itself can affect our surrounding, right? If we are stressed, um, children will pick up that energy, right? Or people around us um, will pick up that energy. Um, so this is why it's the main thing that we have to address or always look at. Okay, what is the state that I'm in? So it's always important for us to address or to assess our state of being. How do I feel, right? Am I feeling confident about this? Am I hopeful about this? Do I have faith in that? Um, do I believe in what I'm doing? Do I trust the process? Or am I impatient? Am I getting impatient? Am I trying to rush the results? Right? All these things will help us assess our state so we can see if we are in a state of crisis or we're just moving patiently and everything is well. The state of crisis is not good, and I will show you with the presentation now, because it brings with it a set of things that will not make us productive in our journey, right? And it will be like self-sabotage. And the way that I will be able to help you is for us to first address this stage. So we cannot help anyone, or I cannot help you if you are in a state of crisis. Okay, so this is the constant thing that we have to maybe work on at first, and maybe also you will have to be tracking on it, because that is the main thing that would maybe hold you back. Okay, so I will share the screen, so I will have a more detailed view over that. So escaping crisis. We all pass through a set of unprocessed negative emotions or traumas. We pass from maybe childhood till adulthood, of course. We all have these negative emotions that surface, or traumas. Maybe we suppress them, we repress them, we try to escape them, right? But they accumulate. So we all pass through a set of unprocessed negative emotions or traumas. The reason it is important to address that is because it reduces our capacity to safely navigate in our journey or life. And it affects our relationship with others and ourselves. Okay, so we have to remember that the kids with autism are passing through this as well, right? The reason why they are like going within themselves, they're not connecting, they're not forming relationship, is because of this overwhelm, right? Also, it can manifest in sensory issues, right? So all that unprocessed, or all that emotions that are not addressed, it will reduce our capacity, right? Capacity to basically navigate life. If we are stressed, it will reduce our capacity. We will feel overwhelmed, right? So a great way to remove overwhelm, to be less overwhelmed, is to address the crisis, or to escape the crisis mindset. Okay, the mindset that might be creating unnecessary negative emotions. First, we have to look at it from a general perspective, that it's something that happens naturally. We're not perfect. It happens with all humans, right? And it's a natural experience, okay? So it's not normal to not have crisis, okay? Or like it's an experience that we will face one way or another. So it's impossible to avoid a crisis. It will happen in one way or another. And that's also something that we want our kids to know, that life is not always butterflies and rainbows, right? They have to somehow um, operate in a changing world. They have to learn things on their own. They have to be independent, right? And that's our end goal. But it is normal to feel hopeless, helpless, mentally and physically exhausted, or overwhelmed, okay, because of this crisis. That's how we usually feel when we are facing a negative emotion. Um, and those negative emotions, to relate more with the topic of autism, uh, those things, if we can track them back, why we feel hopeless, why we feel helpless, why we feel mentally and physically exhausted, why do we feel overwhelmed? The parents who feel that way uh, relate their issues to um, like the reason why this happened to them is because of a diagnosis of a certain uh, belief that they were told, that made them feel hopeless or helpless, right? And it could be from doctors, it could be from society, it could be from the people around them, right? And also their self-belief, right? What they believe and what they restate to themselves. Okay, so these are the biggest areas where we somehow start developing this crisis mentality. And it comes from the diagnosis. If you maybe can track back to the moment that you received the diagnosis, it was a great shock on you. And maybe you felt worried, you felt very concerned, you start feeling very fearful of the future, what will happen, all that stuff, right? Also, because of basically misinformed professionals. And that would be mainly with, let's say, teachers or specific professionals in the field of autism who somehow um, are hopeless, right? They have never seen improvements. They accepted this as a way of living, and parents actually see them and um, they know immediately that there won't be any improvements, right? So if the professional is misinformed and is not basically working on the important parts that we work on the program, that can create a lot of negative feedback, right? Oh, so you're saying that my child will not improve, right? So we will start taking that in and accepting that. People's belief system, right? Also, I have to add here with the misinformed professionals, it goes both ways with the professionals who totally accept autism and we're just not trying to fix autism because it's a genetic thing, or the people who simplify it too much and they summarize it with parasite cleanse, heavy metal detox, right? And maybe you try them and you don't get the results that you want, so you have the negative feedback, right? Or you try everything. That in by itself is crisis. Okay. The people's belief system, people who are in society, how they think about autism, what do they believe about autism? It's something that cannot be worked on. The same narrative that is being spread around. Also, because of our maybe poor time management, because we have so much things to do, we have to take care of the dishes, we have to take care of the clothes, take the kids to school, etc. Right? So we have all these priorities, and those can also add, of course, on our crisis. So, what are the effects of the crisis mindset? We lose our perspective, right? We, instead of having a perspective that is long term, that is looking at the future, that is looking at the process, we start basically looking at where's the result, right? We want this immediate result. So we lose our perspective. We stop seeing the bigger picture. We can only focus on the short term, okay, because of this crisis mindset. We become focused on immediate problems, and we spend all of our energy putting out fires. So all these problems and trying to basically mask the problems, or trying to come up with quick fixes, quick solutions. And that could be with the treatments, therapies, etc. Our pace becomes too rapid, right? We're taking things very fast. We do not dare to stop and reflect, and that is very important. Many parents forget about their health. They forget to take care of it for themselves, right? So we don't stop and reflect about, what's my state of health? What's my mental state like? What's my emotional state like? And that is very important in the journey. We always have to track with ourselves, see how we are doing, because that will affect our environment. Okay, and kids with autism are environmental creatures, like we are all environmental creatures, right? But kids with autism, they are going to catch the energy way more than anyone else because they're sensitive to it. And kids in general, they will pick up this energy, and humans in general as well. We are unable to learn from our experiences, right? Within that crisis mindset, we basically don't focus, right? We cannot gain the lesson from the situations or the experiences that we have. We use our resources inefficiently, and we try to go everywhere and try everything. In a state of crisis, we are worried, we are reactive, and we have a blurry vision. I miswrote this, but this is when we are escaping the crisis. So when we're not in crisis, we will be having a clear vision, and we will be having a proactive action towards a specific situation instead of a reactive action. We'll be proactive, which means we will observe the situation, uh, we will relate that to our experiences and come up with the best option that we can work on, and trusting the process. So, what are the biggest crises that you might have faced? Okay, the biggest crisis would be the diagnosis, right? The moment that you received that diagnosis and you saw it as a huge thing that maybe is going to change your whole life, and maybe in a bad way, that's how you felt, and you felt too overwhelmed with this word in by itself, right? And the doctor said, oh, this is how it is, etc., right? So this is where the crisis started, the mental crisis started. Then comes the fear that comes around with this, right? What would happen? What will happen to my child, right? Is he going to live like this forever? What will happen to his future, right? All these fears start to surface. Also, the conflicting understanding and approaches that are out there. Those are in by themselves crises because they somehow deviate our focus from doing one thing and testing it out. We start trying several things. We want immediate results, and there's so many fear as well, and wrong approaches. So in diagnosis, for the child to lose the diagnosis, we have to lose the label and be aware that it can be a limiting belief, right? If we want the child to improve beyond what he was labeled as or she was labeled as, then we have to leave that label behind. We cannot hold that label and expect the child to go beyond it, right? So we ourselves, we have to lose that label. That autism doesn't define the child, right? It's a part of the child, but the child doesn't identify with that label or diagnosis. So we have to let go of it so we have more opportunities for change. So the diagnosis in many cases would be a limiting belief. Fear is the second one, and fear will prevent us from progressing forward, and it will hold us back into lower frequency where we feel pride, grief, hopelessness, despair. We're basically just losing hope of the child having this growth opportunity, and picking up on the developmental milestones, picking up on typical development. So, okay, the child is autistic, but it doesn't mean that we cannot help that child get back on this trail of development. So, fear, when we are always scared and we're looking at the future, we're looking at all these belief systems. Oh, what will happen later? Let's try this, that, and the other. It will leave us hopeless in the end, right? And we might go in different directions. We might feel grief. We might take it like as a pride. Okay, I guess this is how life should be, and we cannot do anything about it. We're hopeless. We feel despair. The narrative, the public narrative, most people are willing to accept comfortable but believable lies rather than to listen to uh, truth. So people don't want to listen to truth, and that can prevent them from overcoming the mental crisis. Our main goal is to get you grounded. So, with all the things that you have gone through in the past, right, from the fears, from um, the the things that had affected you negatively. And those are things that maybe we can reflect on, maybe write down on a piece of paper, try to think about what are the things that affected me as a parent the most in my child journey mentally. And we can look at them and then we can start letting go of them, right? So when we do that, we will become more grounded into, okay, we're doing this the right way, and I'm not going to rush it. I'm going to be patient with it, and I'm prioritizing my state of mind. Because if I'm not prioritizing my state of mind, I will be in a state of crisis, and a state of crisis will bring no solution to the table. Our second goal would be have more capacity to implement changes, right? When we are grounded, when we let go of the mental crisis, we have more capacity to start implementing things, right? If we are overwhelmed, then we cannot do the basic things or maybe work on the journey, right? So we have to escape the mental crisis for us to allow ourselves to be helped, right? So for you to receive help, you have to escape the crisis mindset, right? And whether you feel it or not, it's always good to reflect and see what things are affecting you, right? If there's any. And all what we see is that the capacity will start increasing, okay? Um, and the more that the capacity increases, the more that we will start implementing things that will bring us to the positive improvements. And basically, our goal as well is to have a positive journey, right? Like we want to enjoy the journey. We don't want to just reap the result because basically the goal will not happen without, of course, the journey, right? So when we prioritize the process and not the result or the end goal, then we're going to win automatically, right? It's just that if we always are thinking about the end goal, then maybe we become impatient, right? And it can stress us. So it's always good for us, okay, to be hopeful about the change. We know that, okay, if we do these things, the quality of life will improve, right? Some of the symptoms as well would improve. Um, and when we have this perspective, then we start looking at, okay, what is the step that I have to take, right? So we start doing it slowly, and that will change how we see the journey. So we want to have a positive journey. We want to enjoy uh, our day-to-day life, basically, and take a step back when needed, right? This will help us um, find balance and go and grounded, right? And become grounded. Also, it will help kids like become grounded more, right? So this is the presentation. I hope it simplified some of the things that I talked about in the beginning. But yeah, the crisis mindset is basically the first uh, milestone that we have to maybe overcome, although it's something that we will continuously be working on because it will maybe come up and then go away. But the more that we work with it, the more that we have capacity to start working on the things that are important. And after the first milestone, which is escaping the crisis mindset, the things that we have or you have accumulated from your past, whether it's from the doctors, whether it's from the misinformed professionals, whether it's from your social life, from your family life, relatives, for example, all these things had created a lot of overwhelm, had placed us or placed you in a crisis mindset, right? And it will make you react instead of being proactive, right? So you will not work effectively if you're being stressed and overwhelmed and not feeling safe in the journey, right? So we want you to feel safe in the journey, to understand that uh, this is like opening a brand new page, um, trying to see how the things that many people have said in the past, maybe with the label or the judgments from society and stuff like that, all that do not matter. And what matter is you in this present moment, even with your child. That's what is going to matter to us and what will matter in the future. And when we escape this crisis mindset, right, that had hunted us from the past and made us push all these buttons, then we will start having more capacity, right, to process emotions and process the things that we have to work on, right? And what are the things that we have to work on? Of course, the diet, the dietary changes. So we will be preparing the food at home. You will be having more capacity to prepare the food at home, right? And also, it will open more capacity for you to focus on the relationship intervention that we work on. So those are the two main goals or two main pillars that we are working on in this home-based approach. But for us to start working on this, we have to work together in order for us to escape whatever crisis mentality that you're in. Okay, and this is something that you will also start to be working on your own, but just being aware of it and acknowledging it and having the mind frame to overcome it is what's very, very important. I hope this makes things simple and not complicated. Um, Sorry if it was somehow complicated in certain points of this video, but if you do have any questions, please let me know so I can um, talk to you about it privately or in the group or in the chat so we can just discuss it and make things more clearer and simple. Okay. I appreciate each and every one of you, and yeah, embrace this journey and let's look at each day as a great opportunity for change. Change is environmental. It's a essential need in life. So we have to always continuously work on ourselves, work on our environment, because that is essential. And especially for kids with autism, we want them to have this growth mentality that will allow them to pick up challenges and pick up the developmental milestones.